Breathe, Think, Love is a podcast showcasing an innovative approach to health and healing beyond the walls of mainstream medicine. Your hosts, Suzanne and Jason, will unveil how we harmonize scalar energy, lymphatic system, and bioelectricity of the body for a holistic preservation of our spirit and soul from a modern roots modality. The intertwining of the triunity of our being unleashes immeasurable power, especially amplified in nature, and will prove to be organically expansive in community. So, okay, I know that podcast introduction is a mouthful, but really, right, Jay? But unpacking all of that by what we mean by all that will be delivered to our listeners through a series of podcasts. So we're trusting that, they would all tune in to see what we all mean, what we mean by all that, what we just talked about, right, in the intro. So to begin with, you probably want to know a little bit about who we are. So maybe let's call it our elevator pitch. Right, Jay?
So if somebody was to run into you in an elevator, what would they learn about you within the first few minutes?
That I'm short, but with a big smile, and that I have sort of a positive and joyful spirit, and I like to ask questions. And I'll probably say something like, curiosity leads to, one's cure or the truth. So I don't know, I'll say things like that, but I do encourage questions.
Very true.
Yeah, and I'm very passionate about the human body's innate ability to regenerate, to heal itself, and getting to the root cause of the health issues. So, and considering all the parts that make up who we are, so our spirit, soul, body. So, so that's a part of the reason why when it comes to healing and health, it's not just this one template approach. It's almost like intuitive. You also want to get to know the lifestyle of the person. But anyway, that's how I'm going to be received. But Tesla, he famously stated,
I love Tesla.
I know. He says, if you only knew the significance or the magnificence of 369, then you would have the key to the universe.
Very true.
So I kind of, I have my own version of that. And I would say, if you only knew the significance of the lymphatic system, scalar energy, and the body's bioelectric, you would have the keys to longevity and abundant peace. And so really, one last thing, and I just, for the purpose of the intro for my part, I just want to share this client's testimonial, just so it speaks to what an experience with me would be like in a nutshell.
Hi, Suzanne. I'm not sure where to start, but whatever I'm about to state can easily fall short of qualifying the transformation I've experienced from just one treatment of lymphatic drainage massage. I've been dealing with this pain on my right shoulder for years now, and as general aches and pains and fatigue, it seems that your treatment, just the one, I feel rejuvenated, energized, and have 70% to 80% less pain with increased mobility. I'm sleeping better with less interruptions, and I didn't need a nap yesterday. I actually went cycling for 25 kilometers and walked 4 to 5 kilometers. The walking part has not been easy for me since my back operation seems surprisingly doable. In short, I've never expected such astonishing results. I feel like I've been anointed by a higher power with the blessings of health, and yes, it's like a miracle when considering how instantly the changes have taken place. All I can say is thank you very much. Furthermore, I would be remiss if I didn't say how thorough, thoughtful, professional, and on point you are with my particular needs when considering my health. As far as value for cost, well, it's easily some of the best money I've ever spent. These results are still hard to believe, but I'm living it and will continue treatment to better and maintain these benefits. And I am and will continue to share with family and friends so they too can experience the gift of better health and being.
Okay, Jay, so what would our listeners, if they met you on an elevator, what would they quickly notice about you and learn about you within that few minutes?
Oh yes, the elevator pitch.
That's right.
Well, if you met me in an elevator, you would feel my energy take over the space in a peaceful, friendly, fun, yet kind of commanding kind of way. I come across as mysterious yet adventurous at the same time. Kind of a unique personality who likes to hear others' points of view. I like to always think in my mind that we are all creators' keys to the universe. Each a special key. We each carry at least one piece to complete the puzzle. We all have unique gifts that the Great Spirit put into us, and together, sharing our gifts is when the magic happens.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a wilderness adventure outfitting company,
Yeah.
right? So we do a few different things. We do wilderness adventures, right? So we get people outdoors, and we do different things from kayaking to hikes, camping. We also teach skills, right? So just basically connecting people to the land, right? So wilderness education, things like edible wild plants,
Yep.
medicines.
Okay.
We teach things like skills like map and compass, what people would like to call survival skills, right? They're not really survival skills. They're just kind of like our original skills, right? Living on the land.
So it's really, in a nutshell, it's like get people to come outdoors,
Yeah, it's to get people to
right?
come outdoors, but Keepers of the Wild, it's kind of like the meaning of the business is hidden within the name of the business. So what we're trying to do is get people outside and get people to care about the wilderness and the wild and nature, right? Because if you care about something, then you'll take care of it, right? So we kind of, our intention is to kind of get everybody to become a keeper of the wild, but to learn about nature and the skills that are connected to it, and to activate, you know, the adventurous spirit
Right.
that's within a human being, right?
See, you said something there that really catches my attention there. You know, when you say keepers, when you care about something, you take care of it, right?
Yeah.
So in line with what you just said, keepers of the wild, keepers of our health. So, you know, and
They
if
kind of
you-
tie together, right?
They do tie together.
Yeah.
And if
Which is
you,
what's kind of taken us to the Harmony Homestead,
exactly.
right?
And so the thing is, you know, I think the issue at hand is that most people don't really know about themselves. So I think a part of my passion, a part of what I want to, I guess, embody, you know, when given the opportunity, is to remind people or to bring to their attention what they were never taught, or they were never, it's not mainstream, right? So like in the previous, like we've mentioned earlier, that, you know, if we only knew the significance of our lymphatic system,
Yeah.
scalar energy, and body electric, so those three things, like most people would be like, what's lymphatic system,
Right.
right? And scalar energy, like what is that stuff?
And it's funny how health and healing, I've come to notice over my time, over the years, my whole lifetime spending time in the bush, that nature is actually a healing place. And a lot of the activities that we do, so for example, we teach primitive fire starting. So we'll teach people, but it's the trail of learning. But you think you're learning fire, but what you're actually learning is about yourself. Mm-hmm. You're learning about patience, focus, and how you're starting a fire, and everything has to be just right. And all the conditions have to line up just right for that little spark that you create, or by friction, by fire, to turn it into an actual fire, right? So there's a spiritual component to it, but the trail of learning for a lot of these skills, or by just simply being out in the negatively charged ions or the scalar energy, which is healing within itself.
Right.
Just like the smells that are in the forest are kind of like aromatic therapy, right?
Right. So, but you said it right there. You said, you know what, patience, and just being in an environment that's not what your routine is, you know. People, one thing I've noticed, and I don't know, I'm sure you've noticed the same, is that we're dealing with a lot of health issues.
Yeah.
I'm hearing lots of
People's mental
seeing
health.
lots of chronic inflammation, like pain here and there, and young people that have bodies that are similar to a
Even
60,
just the
70-year-old,
stresses
right?
of
So
modern day life, right? Like people, in my case for Keepers of the Wild, right? I get people coming just because they want to unplug. They want to get out of the city. They want to put the screen down. They want to get their kids outside. And they want to go do something new, right? And adventurous. Like they want to feel alive, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you want to feel alive? You want an adventure? Come with me, right?
Right.
I'll get you outside. I'll get you moving. And I'll bring you for a unique experience, right? And I like to talk into people. It just seems to naturally happen.
Right.
And I don't know if that's just who I am.
yeah.
Somewhat of a kind of healer, I guess.
So a lot
Right.
of the things that really connect what you're talking about is I want to bring that to the lymphatic system, right?
Yeah.
So, it's easy to just go on Google and just look up what the lymphatic system is, but I like to be descriptive about how to describe it, right? So, lymph, literally means clear fluid.
Right.
So, really, it's your river in your body. It's this.
It's funny.
River
I never
of
knew
life.
about this stuff
Right.
until I met you, really.
So I would look at it as the river of living water inside the human body. It's your fountain of youth. It is your invisible cleaner, your protector, your balancer. And I say invisible because they've known about the lymphatic system since the 1700s, but because it's clear fluid, it's literally water, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at the composition of blood, right, it's like 45% is the red blood cells. Mm-hmm. The plasma is 55% or more, right? So that's that plasma. Once it enters into the cells, it turns into lymph.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Cool.
but the point is, people don't even, where is lymph made? It's made in the liver and bone marrow.
Yeah.
So now think about that. So it's your immune system. It is your circulatory system. It's your detox system. It's your digestive system. It interacts with all the other body systems. And so if you were to journey alongside the lymph, lymph becomes blood. Blood becomes muscles. Muscles become fat. Fat becomes bone. Bone becomes a nervous system. Nervous system becomes reproductive system. So you can see that if you're experiencing any issues or health issues or chronic inflammation in any of those areas, you're looking at like a lower back pain. You're not absorbing your food properly because you probably have leaky gut, or you have some issues with your reproductive systems, right? You have swelling, you have sensitivities, you have some, just generally you don't feel 100%. You're tired all the time, you're, and you seem to be battling a cold where it's supposed to be like maybe 4 or 5 days, but it's taken weeks and weeks. There's a really good chance that your lymphatic system is clogged up, it's congested. Here's what I also say to my clients. Most people have a lymphatic issue, but they don't know it yet.
Yeah.
So really, how is this connecting to what you were talking about earlier? The lymph doesn't depend on the heart, right? It has this one-way flow, but the lymph depends. How it's moved is through two primary ways, right? One is through the back calf muscles. So that's the pump, the primary pump for the lymphatic system. So if you've ever had surgery and the nurse comes, and encourages you, doesn't even really give an explanation, but it'll say to you, you have to walk, you have to get going. I had 3 C-sections, and all three times even though you were in pain, you don't feel like, going or doing anything, but you have to walk. Why? Because of the lymphatic system. You have to get your walking, right? You have to be able
get
to move
moving.
them. Exactly. So walking, so the back
Always
calf
wondered
muscle,
why that was.
right? Back calf muscle is one. And the other thing that moves the lymph is breathing. And we're talking, not just the chest breathing there, because you're not maximizing your intake of oxygen by just chest breathing. Plus you're in a state of sympathetic response, which is not good to be in all the time. When moving the lymphatic system, you want to be able to breathe through your diaphragm, right? So that's called diaphragmatic breathing. So that's breathing through your nose. You'd be surprised how many of my clients, when I, the question of, so, okay, I'm going to teach you how to breathe, or I'll say, do you know how to breathe? And I'm like, I think so. They're like, I think so.
Right.
And then they show me, and then the first thing that comes up is their chest.
Yeah.
And they don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of times we memorize stress, right? We memorize this fight or flight response. We don't even realize that we're breathing that way. And when that happens, all the energy of the body basically goes away from the center of the body. So anyways, the point is, when it comes to digesting your food or sleeping, you want your energy to be at the center of your body, because it takes a lot to digest and absorb food. It takes a lot. When you're going to sleep, your body goes into a cleaning mode. Mm-hmm. So then, like you want to be able to clean. And if your sleep is interrupted, that means something is too acidic. Something is your body's waking you up, telling you that, that you need to do something about that. So anyway, right, like what you were saying earlier about being outdoors and, walking, you're naturally moving your lymphatic system, right? What do you think, Jay?
Everything you're describing, right? It's consistent with what I've experienced in the bush, right? So you're outside, you're moving, so really you're moving your lymph, right? And
Yeah.
the way you're breathing ties into it, and
You're in a calm state.
you're in a calm state.
Yeah, because
right?
you're away. Plus,
And you're not on hard surfaces, concrete,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, because many
Jarring your feet.
right people don't know that walking, like you see a lot of
calves
people
are affected,
right?
knees, back, right?
Yeah. So when people are running on concrete road or
Sidewalks.
pavement, sidewalks, whatever, it's actually not the best place to be running. So, like you said, it could jar your knee or your whatever, right?
So the bush is the best place to be.
That's right. Plus, I think we talked about this you mentioned it earlier, negatively charged ions.
Yeah.
So indoors versus outdoors, there's definitely more negatively charged ions. And you want to be exposed to that. That's why when people go out camping or go out for walks in the bush, they feel good. Well, first of all, when they're walking, they're actually charging their brain, right? And the other thing is, when you're exposed to rich negatively charged ions, you're creating this repulsive force that surrounds your red blood cells. So then your blood is flowing, right?
Makes sense.
Right. So it's not clumped up, right? So yeah, so people are not just imagining that when they're out, they feel better, right? And the only other thing I wanted to mention, so I did mention that there's 2 ways to move the lymph, through breathing and moving. But I recognize as well, and you know this, that we live in modern times.
Yeah.
And we do modern things. So we sort of are, for the time being, are depending at times for modern solutions. And so there's another way to move the lymphatic system in a modern roots way using technology.
Yeah.
So that's where I come in. That's what my treatments do. I do a bioelectric lymphatic drainage light treatment, and I enhance that with microcurrent, which is really, if I could describe it, it's like an electroacupuncture.
Yeah.
And it's been clinically proven to improve circulation up to 400 or 500%. So this is, and I've seen this for myself.
I've experienced it many times. It's good.
So, and then you saw the client testimony, right? But but the negatively charged ions, that's one thing that you enrich yourself with when you're outside. But the other thing too that we want to talk about is the scalar energy. Okay, so
scalar energy.
so how do you understand scalar energy? If you ask somebody that, oh, let me go to Google again. Right?
Yeah, like, exactly, right? Most people have never heard of this stuff, right?
Yeah, and then Google will
Scalar
say,
and-
right.
You know, we've been to like a scalar bathing place, and the
Yeah.
lady that runs the place doesn't even really explain it, right?
Well,
And then you go back to Google,
because
right?
again, when you Google it, somewhere down the line, it'll say, "Oh, that's pseudoscience." But no, you know what?
It
Scalar
works.
is just a modern term. It's been found out. It's been discovered hundreds of years ago, but it's really directly derived from the sun and stars. And so, if you want to explain it, and if you read it online, it'll basically say that when you cancel out two identical electromagnetic waves, you literally cancel it out. So you're left with nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, but that nothing is not nothing. It's actually pure and powerful. So if you want to understand, so like your cells. You're made up of trillions of cells. Your cells communicate by way of scalar energy. And so, and if you want to understand, because it is a type of energy, so the way this type of energy works and behaves is similar to a sound wave. So there's two types of energy, primarily. There's the, you'd call them transverse waves, and then there's one that's longitudinal wave. Okay, so scalar falls in the longitudinal wave structure or behavior. And what that looks like is like a slinky, literally like a slinky. And exactly. And if you look at the way your DNA is also designed, right? So if you look from the top to bottom of the DNA, it has a spiral look. So you can see it kind of looks like a slinky.
Yeah.
But more importantly, just by that structure alone, you're harnessing energy from the stars, from the sun, right? So the human body, most people don't know this, and we're going to get into this when we get into the bioelectricity of the body, but we are actually made up of at least 5 rechargeable batteries.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of them is the DNA. Why? Because just the fact that it's designed like that, you're already harnessing scalar energy.
Yeah.
And so because it's like a longitudinal wave or a sound wave, it's more powerful than a light wave. Because scalar has the ability to penetrate deeper into materials and transmit energy without significant loss. If you imagine a slinky, so long as there's a force that keeps driving the movement, it'll continue. But a transverse wave is similar to an ocean wave. You've seen the ocean and it dissipates as it comes along the shoreline, right? So, so basically, if you are in an environment that is like in the city, or you're surrounded by a lot of,
5G.
5G towers, non-native EMF, blue light,
screens, yeah.
you're surrounded by that all the time. Your cells are actually suffering
Being
in
depleted,
silence,
right?
if you want to put it that way, right? And I always say this,
Is that what you call electron stealers?
you know
Kind of
what?
thing?
Yeah, that's an electron stealer. Yeah,
Right.
because we have to
And since you're a
understand.
battery, it's depleting you.
You got it. You
Right.
got it.
Right.
And I'll show you what it looks like actually when a battery's depleted.
Until you
in a
showed me
little bit.
this, then you told me about it, and
Yeah.
I was like a little skeptical. What do you mean battery?
Yeah.
And then once you show it to people and they experience, then you're like, I'm a battery.
So
You're like, for real,
Exactly.
right? Which is
Which I'll
part of
show,
what some
right.
of this stuff is, right? So
the thing too is just going back to scalar energy, because it's such a pure energy and quite powerful. You can actually enhance that field with things. You can enhance it with molecular properties. So in my practice, I can produce scalar energy, and you can sit there and I could set it up so we could scan your body, right?
Yeah.
And it literally sweeps through your body and picks up the priority frequencies.
Yeah.
So in other words, your body is given an opportunity to talk.
Yeah.
Okay, because the body does have a language. It doesn't speak English or Chinese or whatever, right? It speaks in ways that's trying to grab your attention. So anything that disrupts your normal function, or anything that, like for example, you can't sleep. That's your body waking you up. Or like you have pain. Your wrist is painful. That's pain is the body's language, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times we kind of just
Or congestion.
normalize it, right?
Yeah.
But your body's trying to talk to you. So anyway, point is, we can understand the body's language and also entrain the cells and use Scalar to, load it up literally with bullets.
Yeah.
So you can use Scalar, load it with bullets, and hit these pathogens and toxins.
Yeah,
so that's how cool this thing is.
Yeah, I love it.
Right?
Awesome.
And I guess the only other thing is the like somebody would ask me why, like what's the difference between Scalar detox, let's say, versus what if I just went and and had like a juicer or whatever, right? Juicing detox. And that's fine. And anything you consume, anything that you consume, juices, herbs, plants, vegetables, and all that, it needs to be broken down. So it needs to be broken down and absorbed by your bodies. So, and, for example, you have a liver that's not really at its best. Or let's say you're lacking digestive enzymes. Let's say you have issues with your stomach acid. You don't have the gut flora. Then you're not able to maximize the detox that way, right? Mm-hmm. Unless you do fasting and stuff. But my point is, Scalar bypasses all of that.
Yeah.
So Scalar doesn't need to be cooked. Scalar doesn't need to be put in a milkshake, whatever. You literally just take that information, bypass the absorption of the body, and drive it into the cells. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Nikola Tesla.
Exactly. So, so really, what we were talking about, Jay. So, we were talking about batteries.
Yep.
So, we are rechargeable batteries. And I always think it's so interesting that we have cell phones, right? And they're called cell phones. Mm-hmm. Why did they not call it, I don't know, something else, right? But we are literally made of trillions of cells. And so when it comes to healing naturally, there's no quick solution to it. You know what I'm saying? There's no switch button. I wish I was healed. There's
a combination of things, right?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. But I think first and foremost, one must learn how to be still.
Oh, for sure.
Must learn how to turn off that, that fight or flight response, and be able to be in this rest and digest state.
Most battles start in the mind, right?
Right.
So.
But so what happens is, when it comes to inflammation, though, one really cannot heal without first addressing the inflammation.
Makes sense.
And so going back to Scalar, and I want to take us to the bioelectricity, is that if you just imagine a city and power go out, right? So the battery source is not there, or the power is out. There's an outage.
Yep.
So chaos happens, right? Mm-hmm. Communications down, and I don't know what else. Crimes probably
Communication.
Right? So in the human body, it's the same thing. So a power outage is like an inflammation, right? And so when that happens, the pathogens wake up, or these toxins become more clogged up, so, and it leads to one thing and the next.
Yeah.
So, but, so bioelectric body. But I think just going back to what you were saying earlier, it's really best to just get outside, right? Because
it's always best to get outside.
Right.
No matter what.
Get sun-kissed, experience the wild, and
raw creation.
Right. And that's also, the body resonates with that, right?
Of course. It's our natural home.
Right. So have you ever heard of bioelectricity or bioelectric body until I brought it to your attention before?
Not really, no.
Right. So it literally is bioelectric. So we actually produce electricity.
I guess I've always known that, but until I've dove into it with you and the science behind it, then it all makes more sense, right? And how all of these systems tie together.
Right.
Everything you're talking about makes so much sense, right?
Yeah, it's just not mainstream, right?
It's not mainstream, exactly. That's why we need to get it out there. Right?
And so if one were to Google it, and I'll read it off, right? Read it off Google.
Yeah.
So the bioelectric body is the human body's electrical currents and potentials.
Yeah.
So most people use the word pH.
Right.
Right. So what does pH mean?
Acidity. Right.
Right. So, I don't know. Like, it means potential hydrogen.
Potential hydrogen.
Think about that for a second. So if your pH level, even if you look at rivers, and because of some interruption in the natural flow of things, pH level goes down, what happens next? Fishes started to disappear, right? It's not an environment for where living things thrive, right? So it's the same thing in the human body. So anyway, pH stands for potential hydrogen, but here it says the body's electrical currents and potentials, which are created by the movement of ions within cells. Going back to the negatively charged ions we were talking about earlier, these currents are essential to life and are used by cells to regulate functions, conduct impulses, and govern metabolism, right? So there's ions. Each cell is literally a battery. So literally the cell membrane is a battery. The mitochondria is a battery. So the DNA is a battery. Water is a battery. Yeah. Right? And there's one more. It'll come back to me when I think of it. But so each living cells produce electromagnetic and electromagnetic fields. And you can actually pick it up with a pendulum. Most of my clients have seen this. Right? So I know it kind of...
I've seen this many times.
It kind of like...
Until you
it kind of looks witchy, right? If you think about it.
Right? But until you actually see that it's legit.
Yeah, so this kind of falls in the muscle testing category, and practitioners like chiropractors and who, and I know practitioners like chiropractors and maybe physiotherapists. I'm not sure, but they do muscle testing, and so this just falls in one of them. So I have here a pendulum.
Got to show Tristan this.
Right.
Right.
So I have a pendulum, and if I were to, this is a coin, a copper coin, and I'm not moving it. Okay, I'm not moving it. So you see that there's really no movement, right? Because, that's just my hand there sort of moving. But if I were to put a battery below this pendulum, and you'll see that right away it picks up the polarity. So in this case, it's spinning clockwise, right? But what's cool is that if I were to flip this battery, it will start spinning counterclockwise. Okay. So any battery person would tell you that if a charge of a battery were to deplete to zero, polarity will flip. So, and if I want to use this illustration too, you've heard of pyramids and stuff. It is an energy producer structure. Same thing with a pyramid. So if you see how it's spinning clockwise. But the second you flip it, it'll spin counterclockwise. Now, it'll be the same when you put this pendulum anywhere on your body. See how it spins? Now, what happens is, for example, someone's experiencing maybe pain, like shoulder pain or whatever, that's been chronic. So what potentially has happened is the battery source or the cells have depleted its charge and it's flipped its polarity. So if I had some kind of pain, and you put the pendulum trick, like put it over where your pain is, it'll actually spin counterclockwise. Yeah. So the thing is, if I was like a rechargeable battery, right? And my battery, and I'm charging the battery, but it's put in the wrong way, then no matter what happens, no matter how long I leave the battery in the charger, it'll never retain charge. So that's why it becomes chronic, right? Because you need to be able to correct the polarity of the battery, the cells, the battery in the cells. And there's ways to do that, right? So scalar energy will correct the polarity.
Won't hear this on mainstream.
Right, scale. I've seen it for myself.
All of this stuff, right?
I've seen it. Essential oils correct polarity. My treatments correct polarity, because I do, as part of the initial visit, I actually do check the polarity of the main batteries of the body, which is, the center, right? The center of the body, right? And in some circles,
Until
they call
you
it
experience it,
right. Well, it's more known as chakra. They call it chakra.
Yeah.
The point is, I can actually check, your crown, or this is where the gallbladder circuitry is, right? And that's circuited with your liver circuitry, which is by the groin line. So I can check the polarity of that main battery cable and see what the state of the polarity is. Is it flipped, or is it, the other way around? And that tells us that there's definitely something that's stealing the electrons, like you said. Yeah. And so when electrons are all used up, then it'll deplete its charge and it'll flip.
Yeah. Then it's not doing its job.
No, and so then it'll translate to other
Stagnation,
issues.
right?
Right. Yeah. So what happens is, if you experiment with any liquid and you add voltage to it, you'll be able to retain oxygen. But if you take the oxygen away, or the voltage away from a liquid, the oxygen will bubble out, right? So it's the same thing with the human body. So we want to be able to have the river of life in our body, the water in the cells and stuff like that, right? The lymph be charged up and not stagnated, because when there's an interruption and stagnation, power will go out and oxygen goes, right? Yeah. Right. So that's pretty much, in a nutshell, what the keys, or the significance to the
super interesting stuff, eh?
Keys to longevity and health and healing, right? Which we'll get into a little bit more in detail, right? Because maybe we'll talk about scenarios and stuff that I've seen.
Oh yeah.
But what do you think about the bioelectricity or the scalar energy so far? You talked about.
What do I think of it?
Yeah, from your perspective, from nature perspective, and
it's hard to say. Like, you feel it, but you don't feel it, but you feel it.
Okay.
So it's like an invisible force that is there.
Yeah.
And whether it be the machine or in nature, you feel feel good effects versus doing something else. So I've noticed subtle things like that.
Right. And so this is why we're working towards, a health and healing retreat center, because we're going to invite people who are seeking to have a health breakthrough, right? Mm-hmm. To detox out of, maybe they're chronically inflamed and, they just want to be energized, or they just want to feel healthier. So a part of our program is we're going to introduce all these mechanisms, right? The keys to longevity and healing, right?
Yeah, kind of touch on all the departments, right?
Right.
Spirit, mind, body.
And this is probably a good segue to play the video that we put together. So about
like
Harmony
videos.
Homestead, right?
Yep. going to get into more details about Harmony Homestead,
Yeah.
obviously. So, all-encompassing health, healing, immersed in nature, right? Disconnect to reconnect
Right.
kind of thing. Stay tuned for more.
Oh, absolutely. So we'll
Right.
get into like what that entails, you know, what our Harmony Homestead is
Right.
all about. And like you said, our modality for health and healing and detoxing the body.
Right.
And
And
really
we can't cover it all in one podcast, which
No,
is
so
why we're going to
we'll-
have many other
Exactly.
podcasts to engage everybody and to let
Right.
everybody know what we're up to, right?
Exactly. So you want to thank our listeners. Thanks
Yes.
for your time and
Thanks for listening. Tune in for more.
tuning for more.
Yeah.
All right.
More to follow, guys.
All right. Thank you.